Alright, so we're going to do matrices in this video, but to start off with a little warm-up, we're just going to simplify these fractions. So if I look, both of these are divisible by 17, so I can divide by 17, and I would get 1/3. Okay, my numbers in this one, they're both divisible by 6, so we're going to divide by 6. I'm going to get 3x cubed over 1x. Okay, this has an exponent of 1 if I don't see one, so if I have 3 x's on top, 1x on bottom and cancel, I know I'm going to have 2 left on top. Okay, or if you're dividing things with the same base, you can subtract those exponents. 3 minus 1 will get us that 2. Okay, my next one, they're both divisible by 5. So now I've got negative x squared y cubed over 3x to the 4th y. I'm going to put the 1 in, so I'm going to subtract. So if I subtract these guys, I get negative 2. If I subtract these guys, I get 2. And then I still have the 3 at the bottom. It automatically starts on the top, and then negative exponents, if you remember from Algebra 1, to get them to be positive, you flip them to the opposite side of the fraction. So that's the only thing that's going to move. And then I have the 3 still in the bottom, the x squared is going to join him. Okay, if you're terrible at that, if I take this and I put 2 x's on top, 4 on bottom, and I put my 3 y's and my 1 y, I cancel a set. That means y squared's left on top, which is up there. I cancel a set, x squared's left on bottom, which is what's left on bottom. So if you have to write it out the long way and cancel, you're more than welcome to. Okay, just a reminder of how to simplify ratios and solve them. We got to cross multiply and just make sure we distribute. So remember, when I cross this way, it's 2 times that entire thing and 5 times that entire thing. And it doesn't matter which way you cross first, just make sure you drop that equal sign into the center, and now we got to distribute it. So 2 times 4x gets me 8x, 2 times 1 gets me 2, 5 times 2 is 10x, 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. I want my x's to be together, so I do the opposite to move them over. And I'm going to add that 20. Divide by 2. So my x is equal to 11, and you could always plug it back in and check it and see if both fractions are the same. So plug that 11 back in for both of them and see when you simplify if the fractions are the same. Okay, if I cross this way, I've got 3 times that whole thing. If I cross this way, 4 times that whole thing. So I got 15 minus 10x, 4x plus 4. Add my 10x over, so I get 14x. Subtract 4. Oops, this was 6x. That I'm adding. So I'll get 10x. There we go. Okay. Equals 10x. Now I divide by 10. And I get 11 over 10. Okay, now we're going to get into our matrices. So it's a matrix singular or several matrices plural are used in organizing data. Okay, so a lot of times you use this when you're trying to translate images or move them across coordinate planes. A lot of times they're represented as x, y, and z. You can use it for graphing. Y equals mx plus b. You can represent your data as certain numbers in it. I'm just going to show you the basics of how to add, subtract, and multiply matrices. Okay, so just one thing about matrices, it always goes row by column. Okay, so remember, rows go this way. Ooh. And then columns are this. Okay, so when I write this, there are 2 rows and there are 2 columns. So it's a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, this one, there are 1, 2, 3 rows and there are 1, 2 columns. So it is a 3 by 2. Because there are 3 rows and there are 2 columns. So that is a 3 by 2 matrix. Okay, here are matrices A, B, and C. So find 2 times A. So 2, and then I'm going to multiply it times A. This is basically like a big parenthesis that we're going to distribute in. So I'm going to do 2 times 3 and get 6, 2 times 1 and get 2, 2 times negative 2 and get negative 4, 2 times 7 and get 14, and that's my new matrices. Okay, the next one says negative 3 times C. So I'm going to distribute negative 3 in. So I'm going to get 3, negative 15, 0, negative 18, negative 18, and 6. So you're just multiplying them in. Okay, so the next one we're finding A plus B. So I'm going to take my A plus my B. So it's adding in the same spots. So if I change colors, so I'm going to do 3 plus 4 because they're in the same spots. 1 plus negative 3 because they're in the same spots. Negative 2 plus 8, and 7 plus negative 6. Okay, my next one is A minus B. Okay, so the easiest thing to do is distribute that negative to everything behind it. So I'm going to make this a plus and flip all my signs behind it so I don't mess up any negatives, because plus signs are way easier to work than a minus and negative. Okay, so I made it a plus sign and I flipped every sign but that was sitting in there behind it. So 3 plus negative 4, 1 plus 3, negative 2 plus negative 8, and 7 plus 6 is my new answer. Okay, multiplying is going to step it up a little bit. So this is a bit more challenging. It's one of the most useful operations involving matrices. So our first one is A times B. So if you would like to get multiple color pencils, that might help you in this. So first off, I'm going to write the fact that they're multiplying. Always check what's in the middle because multiplying is a lot more work than adding and subtracting. So you don't want to start to try to multiply something when it's being added. Okay, so our first check is to see if we can do it. So I'm going to go up here. There are 2 rows and 2 columns, so it's a 2 by 2. 2 rows, 2 columns. There are 3 rows, 2 columns. So it's a 3 by 2. There are 2 rows, 3 columns, so a 2 by 3. Okay, because in order for us to do this, things are going to have to match. So this is technically a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2. These first and last have to match. If they're not the same number, then you can't do it. There's no way to multiply it. The outside numbers tells you what type of size of answer you're going to get. So my answer is going to be a 2 by 2 matrices. Okay, so I'm going to change colors. So we always do row by column. Just like how we write it, it's a row by column. So we're going to multiply the things that are in the same spot and add the multiplication of the next thing. So I'm going to do 3 times 4 because they're in the same spots, plus 1 times 8 because they're in the same spot. Now I'm going to change colors. Row, column. Do the same thing. So I do 3 times negative 3 plus 1 times negative 6. When I switch rows on my picture, I switch rows on my answer. So I'm switching row column now. So I'm going to switch my new row. Multiply things in their same spot. So negative 2 times 4 plus 7 times 8. I'm going to switch colors. Row, column. Negative 2 times negative 3 plus 7 times negative 6. Now I just type it all in my calculator. So 3 times 4 plus 1 times 8. So I get 20. My yellow one, I'm going to get negative 15. My pinkish one, I'm going to get 48. And then my last one, I'll get negative 36. Okay, I'm going to erase this so that I can do the next one. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause it now. Okay, my next one is A So 3, 1, negative 2, 7 times D, 7, negative 5, 9, negative 8, 0, negative 4. Okay, so my first check is to see if I can do it. So this is a 2 by 2. This is a 2 by 3. These are matching, so I can. My answer is going to end up being a 2 by 3 answer. So 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay, so I do row, column. So 3 times 7 plus 1 times negative 8. Then I keep doing that row. Row, column. 3 times negative 5 plus 1 times 0. I keep working that row. Row, column. 3 times 9 plus 1 times negative 4. Now that I've hit all my columns, I switch rows, which means I'm going to switch rows in my answer. So row, column. So negative 2 times 7 plus 7 times negative 8. Now I have to keep it going. Row, column. Negative 2 times negative 5 plus 7 times 0. And then my last row and column, row, column. Negative 2 times 9 plus 7 times negative 4. Go ahead and type it in your calculator. It's a 2 by 3, so 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay, so I got 13, negative 15, 23, negative 70, 10, and negative 40. 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay, I'm going to look at A times C. So A is a 2 by 2, and C is a 3 by 2. These do not match, so it is not possible. We cannot multiply. It will not match up correctly. You will see when you do your row times your column that it's not going to match. There's going to be either too many numbers or not enough numbers. All right, so this is a 2 by 2. And a 2 by 2. So it matches. So I'm good. My answer is going to be a 2 by 2 because that's what my outside numbers are. So I'm going to do row, column. So 2 times 1 plus 6 times 6. Stick with the same row. Go to the next column. 2 times negative 2 plus 6 times 3. Now I'm going to switch rows and columns. So I switch rows in my matrices. So negative 3 times 1. Plus 4 times 6, row, column, negative 3 times negative 2, plus 3 times 4. I type them in my calculator. I get 38, 14, 21, and 18. You might also see them represented as boxes. Sometimes that happens too, instead of the big parentheses. Okay, this next one I would pause the video and go ahead and try it yourself and then play it and see if you make any mistakes. Okay, so I got row and column, so negative 1 times 2 plus 1 times 3. Row, column, negative 1 times 2 plus 1 times 3. Switch rows on my answer, so row, column, negative 3 times 2. Plus 6 times 3, row, column, negative 3 times 2, plus 6 times 3. When I type them in my calculator, I get 1, 1, 12, 12. Okay, this is a 2 by 2. And a 2 by 3. So we are good. My answer. Okay, so row, column, 2 times negative 1 plus 6 times 6. row, column. I keep hitting that row in the next column. Row, column. Switch rows in your answer. Row, column. Okay, and my answer I said was going to be a 2 by 3. There are 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay, if I put this in, I get 34, 76, negative 14, negative 18, 3 and 27. Okay, if I start off, I do row, column. I already know I don't have things matching to multiply. This is a 2 by 2 and a 3 by 2. It doesn't match, so not possible.